Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, I am the generational talent in New Jersey media, and certainly I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption, folks, because now more than ever, my level of honesty is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday, folks, as we're closing out the month of January. It's a new year, new logo, new intro. But it's the same excellent journalism you can always rely on here on Jersey First TV. I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you're doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, along with all of our social media platforms. Folks, it takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, and share. And let me know what you think in the comment section. We'd love to read some comments, even some questions on the air tonight. So again, let's get engaged here on this, the 27th of January in 2025. As I mentioned before, folks, hey, if you haven't done so already, check us out on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube. And also, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, and you'll be up to date on all the wonderful content brought to you by the Jersey First Television Network. And I can't say enough, ladies and gentlemen, about being part of the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right. It's always Jersey First TV. Of course, brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative, which are hosted by my incredible, teammate here at Jersey First TV, the amazing Elizabeth Nader, premiere every Thursday. And of course, every Monday night live. Of course, check your local listings. You'll see Real Talk right here with Fernando Uribe every Monday night here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, you want to stick around. We have a jam-packed final thoughts. It's probably the most stacked final thoughts in quite some time. A lot of people to cook this evening, and rightfully so. But folks, as I said last week, being in D.C. for the inauguration of the 47th president, folks, it's just a better country right now. It just is. The air smells fresher. The food tastes better. The women look better. I mean, folks, it's everything. And quite frankly, welcome back, President Trump. And hey, in just a week, it's been full steam ahead, outstanding executive orders. Hey, it's really the FO really variable here, folks. Again, and if you don't know what that means, you might want to Google it. But whether it comes to ICE raids, trying to keep our communities safe, trying to make us energy independent, folks, President Trump is delivering on his promises. You may not like what he promised, but he's delivering on them. And guess what? I'm looking forward to a wonderful 4 years here in the good old US of A. Of course, folks, during Final Thoughts, as I mentioned, we'll talk about a lot of the clowns in New Jersey media and activism. We got a lot of clowns here in Hudson County, like crybabies like this with the usual sob story here in Hudson County. Folks, we'll also discuss, not even professional journalists, but professional instigators in Hudson County, which are also quite insufferable, like the minions that support him. And we'll talk about him in just a little bit. Of course, when we talk about insufferable, yeah, folks, a name that comes to mind is David Cruz, good old Uncle Dave with NJ Spotlight News. And again, kind of reminds us the disservice to journalism that he continues to perform to all of us every single week via NJ Spotlight News. So we'll sort of dissect the latest stupidity from Uncle Dave during Final Thoughts. And of course, speaking of stupidity, well, folks, let's be honest. You can always rely on the queen of word salads, the resident cat lady here in Hudson County, Amy Torres, one of those insufferable cat ladies from the New Jersey Alliance of Immigrant Justice, who somehow is virtue signaling and is all outraged about these ICE raids. But folks, they're doing what they're intended to do, to remove criminal illegals from our communities. And that's exactly what ICE just did in the last 8 days. So bravo to them. Of course, interesting to see Amy do any work, which is sort of a pleasant surprise in the new year. And of course, also, folks, speaking about not doing really any work, yes, we can talk about grifters in New Jersey activism like Patricia Campos Medina and Patricia Boulon. And of course, also when we talk about, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, in just 5 days, the Star Ledger and the Jersey Journal go out of business. And it'll be nice to see Tom Moran and, of course, Uncle Ronnie from the Jersey Journal, as we will bid them goodbye later on this week when both institutions, and it's unfortunate, but of course it's at their own doing, do go out of business. So folks, it's a jam-packed Final Thoughts. You don't want to miss it. So stick around. Again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode as we are live here in the Jersey First television studios here in the Uribe compound. And folks, it's always interesting because I'm the only journalist that talks about parental rights and making sure that our kids aren't exposed to pornography and deviance in our public school systems. Again, I can't speak for others in the field, but I know I'm the only one talking about it. And when we talk about parental rights and the importance of standing up for our kids, you know what? Let's talk to one of those big sources and one of the better activists here in New Jersey. And again, I'm going to be proper and all, but it's kind of amazing. Once I published a photo, so many guys on my DMs and my text messages like, oh, Fern, I'm definitely tuning in tonight. But you know what? She's a stand-up lady. She's a fighter. She's a patriot. She is the distinguished chair of the Bergen County chapter of Moms for Liberty. Again, folks, you can check out momsforliberty.org for more information if you're looking to get involved with them. And of course, to get involved with the great chapter in Bergen County. Folks, Alexandra Bougher joins us live here tonight on Real Talk. Alexandra, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me back.
It's great to have you. And folks, again, if you don't do so already, make sure you follow Moms for Liberty on Instagram, also as well as on Twitter, and also as well on Facebook. Alexandra, Happy New Year. We had a great time last week in Washington, huh?
We really did. It was freezing, but it was very exciting. It was funny. We ended up bringing huge suitcases because we just didn't know how to be prepared. We had ski suits, Uggs, snow boots, tons of beautiful gowns. I mean, it was pretty wild just packing because you really, again, just didn't know what to expect. And of course, the security was changing as well. And of course, his safety is top priority. So we were fine with that. Like, hey, you tell us where to go, what time, we'll do it. But therefore, we definitely had a lot more luggage. But it was a great time. And it was wonderful to be around so many like-minded patriots. We always are, right? I mean, that's who our friends are. That's who we go to rallies with, things like that. But to have this amount, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the New Jersey rally, but even bigger. Like it was so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate due to the weather that we couldn't be in the National Mall. I was there in 2017. What an amazing feeling. But certainly being inside the Capital One Arena, I was so ecstatic. You saw the energy in Washington, D.C. I mean, listen, I was online for a few hours. I was able to get into the arena, obviously, using some press credentials too. But the bottom line is that it just felt like, listen, it feels like a better country. You're seeing the president get to work, okay? Within the first 24 hours, you saw the president giving a great speech in the rotunda of the Capitol, giving a great speech afterwards, then signing executive orders, giving a press conference. I mean, he did more in 4 hours than Sleepy Joe did in 4 years, okay? I mean, let's be real about it, right? And it's full guns ahead, as they say. Obviously, we're seeing the difference. There were ICE raids up in my neck of the woods in Hudson County over the weekend, which I was happy to see. Not because I hate immigrants. I'm the kid of immigrants. But what I want are criminal illegals, criminals, gang members, okay, people. There's a reason why, people like Laken Riley, Kate Steinle, and others are the reason for this. Because the last 4 years, what have we seen? We've seen a negligent border policy with the previous administration. That's not the case with Trump and Vance. They're just explicitly intent on making sure we can keep our community safe, make us energy independent, stop with the woke bullshit, get rid of all this DEI nonsense. And let's talk about that, because I think that at its core, Alexandra, listen, I understand that diversity, equity and inclusion it's a cute acronym. But at the end of the day, I want merit. Okay, I want people being hired, being promoted based on merit. I don't care about gender. And by the way, there's two genders, folks, in case for anyone that didn't pass high school biology, by the way. But there's two genders. I want people, I don't care about your gender. I don't care about your ethnicity. I don't care about what God you worship. I care about your qualifications. And it's refreshing to see that the president of the United States and this administration values merit and not the other nonsense.
Right. I totally agree with you. The second Trump said there's only two genders, I'm like, common sense is coming back. Here we go. Because it is. And it's funny. The other side always likes to say, trust the science. Yeah, let's trust the science. There are two genders. And this is something that we're going to be working on. Actually, there's over, I think it's 33 or 35, I'll have to double check, schools in New Jersey that have repealed or rescinded policy 5756. And, the second he said that, everyone was like, oh, great, now we can get rid of this policy. So, basically what we've been saying is they've never had to have the policy in the first place, right? It was a suggestion, maybe a strongly, asked suggestion, but it's not a law, it's not a mandate. And if you have any sort of common sense and you learn science in school, you should know that a boy does not belong in a girl's locker room, in the bathroom, on her sports teams, or vice versa. The girls also don't belong in theirs as well. And they talk a lot about safe space. And what about these kids' safe space? What about a young, let's just say 13-year-old girl who feels very vulnerable with the changes that she's going through? She doesn't even want to change in front of her girlfriends, let alone someone who was a boy up until 10 minutes ago. It's our job to protect these kids. So, he's definitely paving the way for us, but we have to do the work. These guys, these schools, they're not going to just say, okay, now we can get rid of this. No, you have to call or email. Actually, I was like, writing, because this way we can see what they say in writing and they can't say they didn't say that. So I always say, please email the principal, the superintendent, and say, hey, President Trump just said this. Let's get rid of this policy. It's time. They've never belonged there, but now you actually have, right, the president of the United States saying, this is how it is. So there's your permission, right? Let's get it out of the schools and let's make them safe again.
Listen, I'm with you. And folks, again, if you just joined us right now at 6:11 here on the East Coast, my guest is the distinguished chair of the Bergen County chapter of Moms for Liberty. The great Alexandra Bougher joins us here live on Real Talk. Folks, like, comment, and share real quick. Show your support for the show. And it's interesting because I've been consistent on this issue since I've met you. And you've been on the show multiple times. I'm the only journalist that really talks to parental rights organizations, not just yours, but others, the Family Life Center and others that are intent on making sure that, listen, let kids be kids, okay? Let kids, listen, one thing is believing in the Easter Bunny. One thing is believing in Santa Claus. But the idea that, and I'll just come out and say, because this is how we really feel, the idea that mentally ill men, okay, want to play make-believe and pretend to be women and want to either work in our schools or try to expose our kids to content that just isn't appropriate, or the idea that some school districts feel that drag queen story time is somehow, acceptable for children. Like, I remember when I was 5, 6 years old, Alexandra, same thing with you. I mean, I could barely tie my shoelaces. The idea of having to conceptualize gender or identity and thinking that school districts somehow, and mind you, it's not just them, it comes from Trent. I mean, there are legislators like State Senator Zwicker, State Senator Ruiz, and others who, I hate to say, I'm sure they're decent people, but they're despicable propagandists in the sense of thinking that this is okay to expose children to content. I mean, again, if I were to show content like this to my next door neighbor's children, I would get arrested. There's no way around that. It's not even like semantics here, but somehow librarians and school districts think that they want to make teachers immune from accountability. And I think it's disgusting.
It is disgusting. And unfortunately, Murphy did pass the Freedom to Read bill, which does allow sexually explicit material in schools and for the librarians to show it. Actually, I believe it says teaching staff, which then would cover any of the staff. And you're correct. And that was something that we brought up. So we've testified quite a few times, in front of the assembly, the state. We went down to Trenton and we asked them, we said, well, let me ask you a question. Let's say this teacher or librarian gives this book to a child, right? And they go home with this book. And then that child shows it to another adult. What happens to that adult? Do they get in trouble? It makes absolute, of course they would, because now they're looking at a book that has sexually explicit content with a minor who's under the age of 18. So if it's wrong, it's wrong. It's not okay for teaching staff or librarians to show this, sexually explicit material. It's absolutely disgusting. And they are trying to groom the kids. It has been proven that if you show material like this to children under the age of 18, especially in elementary grades, that actually change the way the brain works and their brain chemistry. And therefore, they're not so scared when other things are shown to them. And it really changes who they are as a person. And that's why they're going after these young kids. Okay, so these are sick people. They are groomers. There's definitely some, pedophiles out there, and they just want to groom these kids as young as possible so that these kids aren't scared. They're not going to go home and tell mommy and daddy because they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. My teacher showed it to me. School is safe, right? That's how it's supposed to be. So we definitely need, thank goodness New Jersey has a governor race this year, and we will have a new governor, but hopefully, everybody goes out and votes. The problem is that everyone is like, oh, Trump's in, he's going to save us. No, he's leading the way, but we need to save ourselves.
And we'll get to 2025 in a moment, but just to sort of right back on 2024, I think that what we learned about November the 5th, and we're seeing some sort of exit polling data now, a couple months later, we probably won't see anything completely expansive until the spring or maybe the summer. But the bottom line is that, the 45th president didn't just fall into the office. Okay. Back in 2017, yes, there was that sort of discrepancy, or there was that sort of ongoing debate about, well, he won the Electoral College, but he lost the popular vote. That's not the case in 2024. There was a mandate here. He just didn't fall into the office. You swept all the swing states. You won the popular vote by a very good margin. You flipped hundreds of counties nationwide. Okay. Never mind in New Jersey, but you flipped them nationally. You retained control of the House. You won over the Senate. There's a mandate here. And I think that Democrats, whether they be national or in New Jersey, you would think that they would maybe take a moment of pause and say, listen, we took an L here, a serious L. Okay. And we might have to reevaluate what our priorities are. And it just seems like Democrats, whether it's nationally or more so in New Jersey, Alexandra, again, in a state where we have the highest property taxes in the country, I know this because I own multiple properties. Okay. We see the gas tax went up again in this past December. So essentially, when you go get just a regular gallon of gas, you're paying approximately 57 cents more for that gallon because of the gas tax in New Jersey. You also have the tolls on the Turnpike and Parkway that also went up. I know this. You know this. We traveled New Jersey to go to DC. So in a year where these are the pressing issues, you would think that Democrats would maybe change the script. Instead of worrying about pronouns and all the woke bullshit, worry about property taxes, worry about public safety, worry about public order. And it just seems like Democrats, listen, I hope they keep taking L's, but it just seems like they're continuing the same playbook, thinking that, it's just a phase, what happened in November. No, Blacks, Hispanics, Middle Eastern, single women, college-educated women, Asians, you name the demographic. They felt that the last 4 years of DEI fixation, everything has to be about pronouns, woke bullshit and all that. Somehow, yes, that's going to win the population over. It didn't. It blew up in their faces. And it just seems like this crop of Dems in 2025 aren't learning their lesson.
They're completely out of touch. They are just completely out of touch. They have no idea what the regular American is going through in their lives. They could have pivoted. They could have watched what happened, especially like early fall, and saw, what Trump was focused on and what Kamala was focused on. They would have seen what was happening, and they chose to just continue that way. And, good for us. We have a fantastic president in. So it worked well for us because he knows exactly what is going on, because he actually cares. He actually talks to normal, everyday people. If you go to an event and you speak with President Trump, he takes the time out. Like, even if his security is like, no. He's like, no, I'm going to speak to this person. And he cares, and he actually talks to you one-on-one and looks you in the eyes and is talking to you about what your issues are and what's going on. And he actually cares. And then not only that, puts his, goes into action, right? So he actually does something about it. And like you mentioned, he's in the office, till 2:00 in the morning, and back in there early in the morning. This man sleeps like 3-4 hours. That's it. He's got incredible energy, and he is just working for us and working. So we have to do the same thing, and we have to work for him back. And we need to, take these local, like maybe an assemblyman or a board of ed seat or something like that, something local that you can do, because everybody can help out, right? You're not going to maybe go work for the administration, but you can work somewhere in your town or your county or your state. So that's what we need to do. And everybody was really scared this time around because they knew we can't live another 4 more years like this. It got worse year after year. It was horrendous. So everybody went out and they voted. I'll tell you, I early voted, and it was mostly women. It was unbelievable. My entire gym, we actually just left the gym class and we all said, oh, we're going to go vote. Oh, great idea. And everybody went. Everyone was excited. Everybody said, you know what? We're going to change this. We're going to go vote for the right person, and he's going to help us change our country. So we need to do it for New Jersey as well.
And it's interesting because when Democrats, and especially the legislature, thought that introducing early voting in 2021 was going to change the landscape, it did. But it can't be careful what you ask for, because I think Dems, came back to sort of regret early voting and vote by mail because Republicans were energized last year. We started in New Jersey, and I was the only journalist calling New Jersey within single digits, like low single digits, because I was talking to people statewide that were telling me Kamala Harris is not popular. She's unlikable for multiple reasons. But Joe Biden was unpopular. And this is where Trump can maybe narrow the gap in and he did. He flipped Passaic County, flipped a few counties. Listen, again, folks, if you haven't had a chance, go on NJ.com, which is one of the few times I'll ever tell you to go on that garbage site. But when you do a search about the voter demographics, every municipality is listed. You saw Trump flips a lot of municipalities. Here in Hudson County, you saw Secaucus, Bayonne. You saw inroads being made in towns like mine, Union City, Weston, whatever. And you saw that statewide, which is why the margin was so close. And I think that, again, now that brings us to 2025, Alexandra, because I would think that, listen, there's a few variables here going into June 10th for this gubernatorial primary. And we'll get to the assembly races because those are important too. All 80 assembly seats are up for grabs. But in the gubernatorial primary, this is the thing, and we'll start with the Democrats, because, come late April, early May, if the economy is improving, like I'm pretty certain it's going to, if we're seeing us not involved in foreign wars, not sending money to corrupt regimes like Ukraine, we're seeing better communities, we're seeing criminal illegals getting shipped out of here, we're seeing us become more energy independent, maybe the cost of gas is going down. What are Democrats going to run on? You can't just run on resisting Trump. You can't just run on weaponizing reproductive rights. Like, by the way, it's codified into state law. So if you're a woman, again, a biological woman with a uterus, with ovaries, not a birthing person, not a pregnant person, okay, you can terminate a pregnancy, unfortunately, in New Jersey up until the 9th month, even for a healthy fetus. Okay, if you've had a bad, Sunday fun day, and ladies, guys, you wake up next to the wrong person Monday morning after Sunday fun day football. Okay, there's plenty of Plan Bs everywhere. So the scare tactic of weaponizing reproductive rights, weaponizing, Trump hates immigrants, like that's not going to be enough for Democrats going into June, into the primary. They're going to have to run on something that isn't just the old playbook. And if New Jersey is improving under a Trump presidency, I got to tell you, Democrats are in a pickle. And now on the flip side, on the Republican side, listen, I like Ed Durr. I was his first interview after he beat Steve Sweeney literally within 2 days in 2021, but he hasn't raised money. Love him to death, conservative, hasn't raised money. John Bramnick, all right, maybe a comedian, but very vanilla. Bill Spedia, a friend of mine. I like Bill. I'm rooting for Bill. Might be tough in North Jersey if you don't have any sort of presence here. Jack, is this just Cinderella waiting for the glass slipper finally? I don't know. And Republicans have to be energized. It's not just Trump's not on the ballot anymore. You can't rely on him coming to Wildwood or the beach for another rally. Republicans have to get energized. So how do you see this race from both sides?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think in a few months, and I guarantee that we will be we're already in a better position than we were a few weeks ago. So a few months, we're going to be so much better. I think if the Democrats can just get past voting Democrat or Republican, just vote for the best person for the state. And that goes to the Republicans too. It goes to both parties. Don't pick your friend. Don't pick the name that you've just seen for years on end. Listen to what they're saying. and not smear campaigns and things like that. Go to a meet and greet for all of them and listen to them. I know that Rider University, there's going to be debates on, I believe it's February 2nd for the Dems and then the 4th for the Republicans, and they will be live streamed. I encourage everybody to watch both of them. Listen to what they all have to say and make your, decision from there. Because you shouldn't just say, oh, well, my neighbor's going to do that, or I've seen that name out forever. If you've seen a name out forever and they keep not winning, ask that question. Well, how come this person keeps losing? Like, people need to get involved. They need to learn how things work. They need to really kind of, show up for themselves and their children and their communities. And there's literally events like 4 to 8 a day, every single day. So you can find one by you and meet every candidate and just ask them the questions that you're concerned with, whether it be school choice, taxes, the fact that New Jersey is a sanctuary state, things like that. I mean, ask them the questions. Don't just believe what everybody else is telling you. Ask them yourself. I really think that if people do that and they get excited, because again, a lot of it goes back to the state. So Trump can do so much, right, on a federal level, but a lot of it is on state level. And since we still have Murphy as governor, we have a lot of work to do right now. And then to make sure the right governor is in, so that great, Trump is president, but we're stuck in a blue state. So we're the ones that have to do that change. No one's going to save us. We have to do that for ourselves. So I would just say, get excited. Nobody should have to excite you. This is exciting. Trump's our president. We have the chance to get Murphy out and a new, fresh person in who is going to protect our children, who hopefully will get rid of the freedom to read bill, who will get rid of this sanctuary state, who agrees with, protecting our borders. So we just need someone who's going to align with how we feel. And I believe that New Jersey might have turned red, even if the numbers don't show it. So I think if everybody goes out to vote, we're in good shape.
Listen, I agree with you. And I think one of the things that is really demoralizing about 4 years ago in 2021 was only 29% of registered Republicans came out to vote. Just think about just maybe 40%, and Jack beats Murphy. It's as simple as that. The governor was immensely unpopular. We all know about it. Like, his COVID mandates were draconian. Businesses died because of him. Obviously, we saw schools being shut down longer than they should have been. Of course, there were some complicit actors too. The NJEA, the AFT, certainly that did not help matters either by sort of strong-arming the legislature and making sure that, hey, let's keep schools shut down longer, which is kind of funny to me because, two guys running for governor, one's the former mayor of Montclair and the current president of the NJEA, Sean Spiller, and the former Senate president, Steve Sweeney, were complicit with Murphy during COVID. So I just think it's kind of funny, like, people hopefully don't, people have short memories here and the internet exists. So it'll be interesting about candidates like that, how they have to answer for it. But to your point, listen, we have to get energized, which brings me to the assembly races. Republicans face a serious disadvantage. I believe it's 56-24 in terms of the majority for Dems. I think with all 80 assembly seats up for grabs, Republicans have a chance to maybe cut into that majority a little bit and send a message, because it's also a gubernatorial race as well, to try to bring some normalcy back to Trenton. I mean, listen, after 7 years of spend, it's like, oh my God, it's like, I feel like I'm dating women that go to Lefke's or, Batagra or something. Like, now mysteriously Democrats in Trenton want to like tighten their buckles a little bit and like, oh, they want to have a hiring freeze and they want to not spend as much. Wow, it's interesting when you're spending like drunken sailors. Again, nothing against sailors, love the men and women of the Navy, but it's just interesting where I think Republicans have a chance with state assembly candidates, Alexandra, to really maybe send a message during this election cycle. How do you see it?
I agree with you, but I would say it's the same with anything. I think people just need to come out of their comfort zone and realize, hey, I can do something. I don't have to sit home and complain about this. I can run myself. It's really not that hard. And I actually would just encourage anybody who maybe ever thought, hey, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could help, to reach out to myself, to you. There's so many people that you can reach out to that will show you the way, like the beginning steps on how to do that. But again, it really just comes down to people taking initiative, not being lazy, being self-motivated, and wanting a great New Jersey. So not just worrying about like, oh, well, my house is fine, or, this is fine. No. We want our state to be great again. So I think it's just the same as everything else. I think it just falls down on, being involved, not expecting everybody else to do it for you. If you don't know how to do it, please ask us. 5 years ago when I started this, I didn't know anything. It started with protecting our religious exemptions in school and being like, well, what's our rights? How do we do this? Who do I talk to? Am I allowed in that building? Like, just because I didn't know anything. And, you ask one question and that's it. And you're off. And now we're helping everybody else. So I would say, again, the same thing. I think it's going to go really well if everybody just stays with this motivation and, volunteers themselves and takes a step up.
I'm with you, folks. If you just joined us right now, it's 6:29 here. We're about to wrap up shortly here with the distinguished chair of the Bergen County chapter of Moms for Liberty, Alexandra Bougher, here joins us live on Real Talk. Folks, like, comment, and share, please, tonight's episode here on the Jersey First Television Network. Alexandra, obviously, it's a new presidency. It's a new year. It just seems better as a state in the country. What can we expect from Moms for Liberty, not just in Bergen County, but statewide in New Jersey?
Yeah, so Moms for Liberty is 4 years strong this month. And actually, Bergen County will be 4 years in March. So we're almost at our 4th birthday, too. And I'll tell you what, we're on fire. We have people that are helping. We have thousands of, just in Bergen, thousands of members. In New Jersey, we have so many chapters. I want to say it's 13. I would have to double check. But we really, and on a national level, I know they're really trying to change and sort of see where they can train chapters better and states better. We have a ton of state legislative teams. New Jersey just launched ours 2 months ago. We actually were doing it the entire time. We kind of taught ourselves. But now we have a formal Moms for Liberty state legislative team so that we can tackle bills that need to be stopped, bills that we want to put up, relationships with legislators. So that's wonderful. But you're really seeing a complete change of attitude towards Moms for Liberty. People were scared a few years ago. They're like, oh, I don't know if I can talk to, or, they were really scared because, again, the media, we all know who they're owned by, would say lies about us. And we're just moms and dads and grandparents, even just concerned citizens that want the best for our children. I don't care who you're married to. I don't care what you do in your home. Just don't talk to my child about it. It's inappropriate. So I think the whole, the climate has changed. Even when we were down in Trenton to talk about 57, 56 about a month ago, it was different. We weren't met with this aggression that we were last year. They were smiling at us. They were listening. They were asking questions. So things are definitely changing. We are growing. We have so many training events set up throughout this year for all over the United States to help parents, to empower them, to educate them so that they don't have to rely on us. They can actually do things for themselves. So I would definitely suggest, reaching out for help. I know you mentioned we have a momsforliberty.org, and that'll tell you where to go, any state, any chapter. If you are in Bergen County, it's Moms for Liberty, Bergen County, New Jersey. We have Instagram, X, and Facebook. I want to call it Twitter.
I still call it Twitter. Yeah, I can't call it X yet. What do you think is going to be happening with Moms for Liberty in the sense of, because again, not just only we have a gubernatorial race, we have assembly races, but we have important municipal and board of ed races. How heavily involved has Moms for Liberty, whether it be Bergen, how
somebody's here.
how involved do you
Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry, I can't hear your question. What is it?
How do you feel Moms for Liberty involved trying to win over the? They're just as important. They just under the radar, unfortunately.
You know what? I'm gonna take a mom moment here because I have a bunch of kids staying over. So like Moms for Liberty, we're mothers. It's not perfect. And this is my zoo. You're getting picked up? All right. Have a good night. Tell mommy I say hi. All right. So we picked up kids today and we went to Sky Zone and we had pizza and they ended up staying. And I said, listen, I can't do drop off because I have a podcast at 6 and I need you all to be very quiet. And they were actually very quiet until the doorbell rang.
They were.
So they're good now. What was the question?
How heavily involved do you think you're going to be along with other chapters when it comes to these board of ed? Because again, we have a gubernatorial race, we have assembly races, but under the radar, let's not forget we have important municipal races and board of ed races. How heavily involved do you think you're going to have to be this year to try to maybe flip some of those?
We're going to be we are extremely involved and we're going to continue to be so and even step up our game. We do have an endorsement process for Board of Ed candidates. And, if somebody tells us about them, we can reach out to them and see if they're interested. But I would say 9 times out of 10, they actually reach out to us. We're a household name now. It's not like 4 years ago. So if they want the endorsement, they would go to momsforliberty.org and fill out a questionnaire and we would do an interview and see how they're doing. But we're extremely involved. We don't endorse anyone except for Board of Ed candidates, so no other type of candidate. However, we do work hand in hand with them, right? Everybody helps each other. Well, we could do things at the Board of Ed level, but then we need to know the legislative team down in Trenton so that if a bad bill like freedom to read is going through, we know who to talk to so that we could talk to them why this is so bad and why this should not be passed. So things like that. So we do work really closely with the assemblymen, some congressmen. We're down in Trenton, I would say once a month, twice a month, definitely during session. We're there, very much often. Once or twice a week. They like to tell us a bill's going up on Monday, like Thursday night, and we scramble and, move our stuff around. But we make it happen. So it's okay. And, we all work hands in hand, but I see it definitely revving up and stepping up and just definitely much more of a force. There's so much more of us now than there was. Every week, every month, we continuously get new members that want to help. And they feel emboldened now. They're like, okay, Trump's president. It's okay for me to feel this way. I can say this. And so now they have that confidence to ask for help. So I actually think we're going to be super, super busy this year.
I really hope so. And I know you're making a difference. Before I let you go, Alexandra, listen, I know you have a school board meeting coming up, so I want to get there. But I want to thank you for your time. You're always so supportive of my brand. You're so supportive of Jersey First TV. And certainly, again, as someone that really believes in parental rights and what you're doing, along with Moms for Liberty, as well as Gays for Groomers, other parental rights organizations that, listen, we just want kids to be kids. The idea that, hey, if we have to protect kids from something, that's already a red flag. And it's mind-boggling to me how some adults, especially left-leaning ones, seem to be oblivious about it. But again, I want to thank you for your time. I'll give you the last word here on Real Talk.
Well, I just wanted to thank you as well because, you give us the platform to help other parents. So I really, really appreciate that. I also just want to say I'm glad you brought up Gays Against Groomers because they're wonderful. We work hand in hand with them. They don't want to be lumped into this nonsense. They are just great, conservative people as well. They just want to protect their children as well. So again, thank you again so much. But I am going to run to a Board of Ed meeting tonight. So thank you again.
I appreciate it. Make sure you share the episode. And I always appreciate the support here. Folks, she is Alexandra Bougher, the distinguished chairperson of the Bergen County chapter of Moms for Liberty here in New Jersey. Alexandra, stay awesome. And we'll talk again soon here on Jersey First TV.
Bye.
Folks, good stuff there with Alexandra Bougher. Again, always great to have her on the show and talk about not just about parental rights, but talk about how important it is to stand up for our kids, to make sure that our kids can just retain some essence of innocence. Okay. The idea that, there's an argument being made about, kids as young as 5 can determine their gender and make other life altering decisions. No, that's nonsense. But you have legislators like Teresa Ruiz, Phil Swicker, and others in Trenton that somehow, go along with this madness. As I said before, what do we learn about November the 5th, 2024? Regular everyday Americans are not bigots. They're not homophobes. They're not transphobes. They're not xenophobes. They're not Islamophobes. What they are is sick and tired of all the woke bullshit, of this fixation on pronouns, of coddling the alphabet army. Okay? Because that's what they are. The alphabet mafia, as I like to call them, actually. Because the methodologies of making sure that, hey, if you don't go along with what we believe, we'll try to cancel you. We'll try to get you disciplined at work. We'll try to get you fired from your job. Like, these are evil people. And they have to be defeated in all realms. So when I talk to organizations like Moms for Liberty, they're doing exactly, they're fighting the good fight. So when I talk to people like Alexandra Bougher, when I talk to others from other organizations, what they're doing, folks, is standing up for your kids, is standing up for really the quality of education that our kids want. And again, in a state with the highest property taxes in the country, I would know that as a homeowner. Okay. With ever increasing tolls on the Parkway and Turnpike, respectively. I know that because I traveled to Washington, D.C. last week for the inauguration of the 47th president. Okay. And the 58th vice president, thank the Lord. Or the idea that when I go fill up my gas tank, that I'm paying 57 cents more for a regular gallon of gas because somehow the Transportation Trust Fund needs money. Folks, these are the things that are killing New Jersey. Not parental rights, not parents that are standing up for kids. In a time and a climate where we have to worry about, again, it's not about pronouns and pregnant people. It's about property taxes. It's about common sense. It's about public safety, making sure our communities are safe from criminal illegals. That's what matters. That's what we learned last November, folks. And it doesn't matter if you were white or black or Hispanic or Asian or Middle Eastern, college-educated women, single moms, single dads, you name the demographic. They saw on one side how good they had it under the 45th president. And what they saw on the other side was what a disaster it was under the 46th president and his vice president. And they knew that we could not afford another 4 years, 4 months, 4 hours, or 4 minutes. In just a week alone, we're seeing the difference of competency, energy, and initiative. And that's what we're seeing here. And hopefully that momentum carries into this year for Republicans. Not just only to become the next governor, but flipping some assembly seats, especially in Central and South Jersey, where it's very realistic and very plausible to do so. And flipping Board of Ed seats. That's what matters. So once again, I want to thank Alexandra Bougher. She's a great guest. She's a great patriot. Her and her family are always very involved. And of course, Moms for Liberty, not just the Bergen County chapter, but all the chapters in New Jersey, and they're growing, are making a difference too. So if you're looking to get involved with a wonderful nonprofit, folks, check out momsforliberty.org. Once again, that's Moms for Liberty, the word spelled out, F-O-R, forliberty.org. Make sure you like them on Facebook, of course. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter, and specifically the Bergen County chapter, again, led there by their chair, Alexandra Bougher. Folks, it's 6:40 here on the East Coast. And guess what? It's time for final thoughts. Yes, folks, let's get started because this is a very long final thoughts. Let's get started with clowns at a local level, and we'll get to clowns within journalism and activism. Let's talk about clowns in Hudson County. When I think about clowns, I think about someone like this idiot, this illiterate, Jose Garrido. Okay? Who, God forbid, by the way, Jose, there are free versions of Grammarly. you can download it onto your iPhone and use it, because God help us. Folks, if you've ever had to read some of his social media, and I don't, because I don't follow him and I have him blocked. I have no desire to have him look at my stuff. But people send me his content all the time, and my God, like my eyes hurt. Like, it's embarrassing that a guy who's like in his late 60s writes like a 4-year-old and somehow is like this vocal activist. You know, for a guy that got surgery on both of his feet, he seems to get around pretty well, walking around, taking videos, doing testimonials, right? So if it isn't one of his sob story testimonials about how bad he has it with his life, blah, 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 wah, wah, boo-hoo. I mean, folks, it's insufferable. No one cares, least of all me. Okay? Like, damn, bro, like you can get around, you know, doing your little testimonials and walking by school properties, but really, you can't get a job? You post pictures of your feet after surgery or whatever's wrong with them, but you can't get a job? Plenty of jobs out there, right? You could drive for Amazon if you know how to operate a motor vehicle. But then again, that would require you to read and, you know, and understand English, and that could be a struggle for you. But folks, you know, Jose Garrido, along with others, unfortunately enable blatant stupidity in Hudson County. He's not the only one guilty. Of course, we have other illiterates like Ernie Rivera Batiz, a former retired police officer here in Union City that, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, is anyone surprised he never passed a promotional test? I mean, again, I mean, this idiot, the only A's this guy ever saw on his report card growing up were in his name. He never saw them on the report card itself. Or other, like, downright buffoons on social media, like John Hughes and others, Joe Blaitler, right? Other, you know, activists or other supposed journalists. But the biggest perpetrator, folks, and unfortunately the one that gets enabled the most by idiots like this guy, unfortunately, is Leonard Flapowski. Now, I'm not going to refer to him by his gimmick name, okay? But for a guy that supposedly is a investigative journalist or just a journalist in general, well, I can tell you from experience, folks, if the definition of what a journalist is today is even being remotely disputed, then okay, then what we can do is simply just go by the basic premise that yours truly is a journalist. Now, I know that some in the field out there, especially all the left-leaning journalists out there, don't think Fernando Uribe is a journalist. But if the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists bestows press credentials to me, and they're the governing body, then that's where the discussion ends. That's it. You don't have to like my podcast. You don't have to like what I have to say, but it's journalism, folks. It's award-winning opinion journalism. You can't say the same for Leonard Flapowski, who continues to be a professional agitator, an instigator. And let's take the latest example of this idiot over the weekend with a stunt on the south side of Jersey City. Now, folks, let's be very fair. The idea that anyone's going to believe that Leonard Flapowski was sitting in a church praying is about as believable as, you know, Jose Garrido having a work ethic, or that Jose Garrido understands the English language, or that Jose Garrido can write properly formatted sentences. I mean, the two things are just not credible, and they're just not believable in any sense of reality. But here's Leonard over the weekend at an event shortly after the former governor, who is now a mayoral candidate in Jersey City, Jim McGreevey, was hosting an event on the south side of Jersey City shortly after getting an endorsement from the current governor, Phil Murphy. And of course, what Leonard won't tell you is when he decided to play a piano inside the church and he was asked to stop, yeah, like that's not a red flag already that this guy's being a nuisance? And folks, like, take your pick. You can Google it. There's plenty of examples of this guy going to offices, going to city halls, not just in Union City, but elsewhere in New Jersey, Edison, other municipalities, where he's a downright nuisance, where he thinks he's somehow a fighter for truth and a fighter for information. He's not. He's fighting life, yes, but he's not fighting for truth or information. And unfortunately, illiterates like this guy with his ongoing sob story of, I don't know, whatever he's crying about today. I mean, folks, take your pick. I mean, pick an hour of the day. Who knows what he's crying about, you know? But we're supposed to believe that Leonard Flapowski isn't an instigator. We're supposed to believe that when he's going to the offices of the county prosecutor at 595 Newark Avenue, that he's doing it under the best of pretenses. No, folks, what he's doing is being a nuisance. What he's doing is trying to be an agitator and an instigator and trying to paint himself as a victim. Folks, again, professional victimhood is running rampant these days. Whether it's clowns like this guy behind me or others, right, like retired police officers in Union City that maybe they get promoted and are still bitching and moaning. Folks, I have ex-girlfriends that don't bitch and moan as much as people like Joe Blaitler or Jose Garrido or John Hughes or any Rivera Batiste. And mind you, I've had some insufferable ex-girlfriends who are just downright toxic nags of women. But even they, I think, have some semblance of decorum, unlike these guys. But check this out here. Let's go to the next clip here, folks. Let's go to clip 1 and tell me if you believe, first of all, I haven't seen this much flopping since watching a Lakers game. And mind you, I'm a Laker fan. And while I cheer for LeBron James, I also understand that he flops as often as possible. But check out this flopping attempt by Leonard Flapowski when he's being asked to leave because he's being a nuisance. He won't tell you. He won't show you that part of the film. And the minions that are with him, like, what is it, Long Island Truth or Full Court Press? Have you looked at these people? Do you think this guy could run up and down full court? Definitely not. But these are the idiots and supposed journalists who are somehow emboldening fools like Leonard Flapowski, or giving a platform or a microphone to illiterates like this guy behind me and others locally. But check out this. Let's go to clip 1 and see if this is even remotely believable. Folks, it isn't. Let's have a few laughs.
Why are you asked to exit the church? For what reason? I'm here to pray. I am here to pray and enjoy the service.
There's no issue here.
I understand. Did I break the law? Number 1, officer, I have no issue with you, officer. Did I break the law?
I understand what you're doing here. You're being asked to exit. If you do not exit,
What am I doing? Hey! What are you doing? What are you doing? Ow! What the hell are you doing?
Oh my God, folks, really? We're supposed to buy that somehow this buffoon, Leonard Flapowski, is being manhandled by police officers? Really? A guy who's been nothing but an agitator and an instigator. This is the guy we're supposed to take seriously? Folks, no reputable news outlet in Hudson County. And let's start with the top of the food chain, the Hudson County View, whose editor and my good friend and member of the Pinnacle and fellow Rutgers alumnus, John Robert Highness, knows this guy is complete bullshit. HUD-Post, led by its editor, James Los Santos, a fan of this show, also knows that what Leonard Flapowski, what he does is bullshit. Yes, the Jersey Times reports on this stuff, and obviously they're not going to take sort of an editorial stance. But I can assure you that any reputable news publication in Hudson County sees this for what it is. Absolute nonsense. Okay? Now again, if you didn't really get the hysterics or the over-sensationalized drama, folks, let's look at it again. Just for the sake of argument, in case I missed something. Let's look at it again.
Why are you asked to exit the church? For what reason? I'm here to pray. I am here to pray and enjoy the service.
there's no issue here.
I understand. Did I break the law? Number 1, officer, I have no issue with you, officer. Did I break the law?
I understand what you're doing here. You're being asked to exit. If you do not exit,
What
Folks, again, I haven't seen this much flopping since I'm watching a football game in Europe. Take your pick. Champions League, La Liga, right? Take your pick. Any good football match in Europe. I mean, this is pretty comparable, right? Like, I've seen some football players take flops, and that's a pretty good one. So if Leonard, is thinking about a career change, I mean, I know you're pretty old, but I mean, if you're thinking about becoming a professional football player and playing in Europe or one of those leagues, I mean, you have a pretty good future. Maybe if you dribble a soccer ball and know how to flop, I mean, I think you got a great career there in the twilight of what's left of your life. So you might want to consider career change. But folks, again, like, we have to stop giving oxygen to this stuff, folks. Okay. Leonard Fabowski has been around for more than a year, and he's been nothing but a nuisance. He's a guy you just can't take seriously. What's even worse, again, who you can't take seriously in addition to Leonard Fabowski, are the minions that enable him. The boohoo crybabies like Jose Garrido or John Hughes. Who, by the way, folks, if you ever near John Hughes, lock that liquor cabinet. If you know what I'm saying, right? Or Eddie Rivera Batiz, or Joe Blaitler, or the rest of the minions that enable this. Folks, this isn't journalism. Folks, these are poorly choreographed theatrics. Okay? And for a guy like me that loves pro wrestling, folks, this is an insult to anyone that does any sort of acting, promo work, or any live action stunts. Okay? If you think Leonard Fabowski was in church actually praying and not looking to be disruptive, again, what he won't show you, as well as the other idiots like Full Court Press and Long Island Truth, what they won't show you is Leonard Fabowski, according to eyewitness testimonials, was playing the piano inside a church. Who does that? What grown man who's almost 70 thinks it's okay to walk in just to a church because he feels like it and starts playing a piano? Like, folks, again, I get it. Union City has a great arts program at the high school. I know their supervisors. They're great artists who like to encourage people to perform in the arts. There's a time and place for everything. Okay? Even these professionals know you don't do stuff like that in a church. But somehow Leonard Fabowski and all the idiots that embolden him seem to have not gotten the memo. It's pretty alarming, folks. These are grown men. Some of which, still complain about things that they could fix. But they choose not to. Folks, when it comes to embarrassing theatrics and performances, just take a look, folks. It's idiots like this that do a disservice to journalism. And in a time when establishment media and legacy media are lying to you and doing you a disservice, again, idiots like Leonard Fabowski, they're not helping any. Speaking about disservices to journalism, let's get to Uncle Dave and NJ Spotlight News. Now, again, we all know that Uncle Dave has not been well since November, when Donald Trump won the presidency once again, and was only the second man since Grover Cleveland to win a second term in non-consecutive attempts. Okay? But of course, leave it to Uncle Dave, who loves to virtue signal and will absolutely have like the worst guests on a show to just embolden all the woke bullshit that Uncle Dave peddles. Okay? And you can see it because whether you're watching Chatbox on NJ Spotlight News or you're watching Reporters Roundtable, there's never a shortage of Uncle Dave with the typical left-wing nonsense, the typical, let's be fair about Uncle Dave. Let's be honest about David Cruz. This is a guy who for some time now has made a living, a good living, because he only works 6 months out of the year, let's be honest, if that, okay? Eteo One maybe works 6 months. I'll give him 7. But the idea that Eteo One works all 12 months of the year, that's a fallacy. what he's doing the other 5. I don't know. I mean, comiendo mierda. I mean, I get it. Dave likes to comer. I mean, that's a different conversation unto itself when it comes to David Cruz. But the latest example of Uncle Dave comiendo mierda was this past weekend on Chatbox, with having one of the more insufferable members of the House of Representatives, Bonnie Watson Coleman, okay, a known person who's very anti-Israel and not sympathetic to, Israelis, the Jewish population, who loves to, peddle the woke bullshit, who's all about emboldening, career criminals like George Floyd, thinking that we need statues and we need marches and rallies about a career criminal, who basically died of a fentanyl overdose. Well, folks, that's the cause of death, by the way. I know for Uncle Dave and Bonnie, that's a tough pill to swallow. That's the truth. But the latest nonsense is sort of listening to Uncle Dave over the weekend on NJ Spotlight News talk to insufferable individuals like Representative Coleman and Dr. Greer from, I believe, NYU or Fordham. I have to look at that. A woman, by the way, who is as thin-skinned as Uncle Dave, who, of course, now again, I'll give credit to Uncle Dave. He doesn't block people, but Dr. Greer does. But more on this insufferable woman in a minute. Let's get to the first insufferable woman here this past weekend.
Into the second Trump administration, and probably the best thing we can say is that the country is still standing. We're going to look at reaction to the week from the perspective of those who've been.
First of all, the country is still going to keep standing, David. I mean, again, I know you love, like, tú vives para comer mierda. I mean, tú vives para comer. I mean, look at you. I mean, that's clear. Like, everyone in the food court at Gateway Center knows you by first name. Like, let's be honest. But that's a conversation for a different day. But this sort of hysterics and this hyperbole, like, Dave thrives on that. He doesn't drive on color coordinated. Like, I don't know who dressed David for Chatbox this week. Like Stevie Wonder? Does Stevie Wonder get hired at NJ Spotlight News to coordinate wardrobes for people? Maybe. I don't know. Let's Google that if Stevie's employed at the Gateway Center. But let's continue.
Sounding the alarm since before Election Day. We'll talk with Fordham University political science professor Christina Greer in our second half. But we begin today with New Jersey's 12th congressional district. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman is there, and she joins us now. Congresswoman, always good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
So elections have consequences, they say. Let's start from the beginning with Inauguration Day and the president's address. Is it possible that it was even darker than even the 2016 speech?
So let me just be honest with everyone. I didn't really see it in real time.
Yeah.
I didn't see the inauguration in real time. I spent my time doing an event on Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. Thank God for the juxtaposition of peace with all the fieriness of the president. But what I did hear and what I did read was quite grim. But then he doesn't
She can read? Oh, that's interesting. Well, more on that later.
have any other way to address how he feels about America. And I guess how he feels about anything other than making life in general. He really is a bit of a sourpuss. And to be the president of the United States when you're looking forward to his lifting you up and giving you hope and promise and excitement and looking forward to changes, well, that's just not within him. He's not able to do that. He thinks for some reason he's got to highlight everything that's happened before him and without him as a negative.
Yeah, Bonnie, because the country was going to shit the last 4 years under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Two people that you were happy to embolden at all times. When an economy that wasn't working, when you are voting to send billions of dollars to a corrupt regime like Ukraine, okay? When you are enabling all the DEI nonsense and all the woke bullshit. Yeah, Bonnie, I'm sorry. He has to bring that to light. To the fact that he has to sort of say out in public what we should all know, that there's only two genders. But woke fools like Bonnie Watson Coleman and David Cruz would rather have you believe that that's really what's important today. That we have to worry about pronouns and accommodating pregnant people right? Instead of real world issues, about being energy independent, about the fact that, yes, it's important to highlight the disaster that was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, an administration that you happily campaigned for and lied to us, like every other Democrat in the House and in the Senate, that was saying to us on national television or even state television that Joe Biden's up to the task. He wasn't. And neither was Kamala Harris. Let's continue on with this nonsense.
And sorrowful and dark.
Is there anything in there that you heard that really stayed with you, that made you shake your head and say, ugh?
It's interesting. Every time I listen to David Cruz, I feel like going, oh, I mean, my God, you know, whenever David Cruz retires, folks, I mean, that's going to be a glorious day for journalism, because this is a guy who just can't cut it anymore. And I'm not being an ageist. I'm not poking fun at his age. No one's saying that David Cruz can work as long as he wants. I get it. David Cruz, like, you know, he's in his early 80s, and I'm not telling you when to go to work or not. But the idea that David Cruz is, you know, still a service to journalism, folks, that's just not true. It just isn't.
I think it was typical Donald Trump. I mean, I think he's unnecessarily mean-spirited and says things about the former president that are totally unnecessary. I think he.
You mean like when Joe Biden called half the country garbage, right? That wasn't mean-spirited, Bonnie? I'm just curious, because not a complaint from you whatsoever. Now, again, I don't know when it happened. I mean, if someone had to wake you up and tell you about it, but yeah, that wasn't mean-spirited by Joe Biden? Got it.
He's just very unpresidential, but there's nothing that he has said, and there's nothing that he has done in the few days that he's been president that actually astound me.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I mean, listen, it doesn't take much to astound someone with the mental capacity of Bonnie Watson-Coleman. But yeah, let me guess. Great executive orders about eliminating DI nonsense at the Pentagon, making sure that there's only two genders, because again, for adults like Fernando Uribe that passed high school biology, that took AP anatomy and physiology with, God rest his soul, Dr. Louis Marchesani at Memorial High School in West New York, adults like me understand there's only two genders, right? And other executive orders and other policies that are going to astound the American people and benefit us. But again, that would require Bonnie to read, and we all know Bonnie struggles with reading. But let's continue.
I think he's quite capable of going lower than any of us anticipated or have ever seen before.
Yeah. A slew of executive orders to start things off, including pardoning most of those involved in the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. That has even police organizations criticizing that move. It was pretty close.
Well, first of all, again, the more serious offenders are still incarcerated and still awaiting trial. Let's be very fair about what happened. But again, David Cruz and Bonnie Watson-Coleman are the same people that during the summer of 2020, when we had to endure all the racial justice and all the, oh my God, George Floyd, oh, my heart breaks, for a career criminal who literally the last crime he committed before dying was assaulting a pregnant woman at gunpoint. But this is who people like David Cruz and Bonnie Watson-Coleman want statues of. Okay? This is the guy that they want to put up on a pedestal. And you know, when people were rioting and looting and vandalizing during the summer of 2020, not just in New Jersey, but across the river in New York City, across the country, not a peep from Uncle Dave. Uncle Dave was well, it's the summer, so he's not working. So he's either home eating or napping. I mean, he's not really working. But not a word from Bonnie either. And other woke Democrats that would rather peddle the nonsense of somehow, you know, glorifying George Floyd. And not one person was arrested or prosecuted, by the way, with all the property damage we saw to both public and private buildings. Not a word. Okay, not a word out of these two. But yes, but the selective fake outrage is really, really rich. Let's continue.
Clear day of projecting his priorities, no?
So there's nothing he's going to be able to do to erase what really happened on January the 6th. But his release of those 1,500 or so individuals that were part of the insurrection that caused the damage to the Capitol, the ill health and the death of police officers who were protecting all of us.
Again, let's be very clear, because David Cruz, Max Pizarro, Matt Friedman, Tom Moran, Charles Style, and all the other, again, woke idiots in New Jersey, again, not one police officer died that day. If they died from complications of something else, again, we keep hearing that a police officer died, right? Brian Sicknick died of natural causes. He didn't die that day. He didn't die from anything that happened that day. So again, this perpetual victimhood is, I'm done. I'm sick of it already. I feel for his family. I feel for his loved ones. But let's tell the truth about what happened that day. But again, when it comes to telling the truth and being accurate, I mean, what do you expect from David Cruz and Bonnie Coleman?
And protecting the Constitution of the United States of America. The Sipniks in my district, who are the parent new administration. And it's almost like 100 days of the reign of terror. I'm afraid it's going to go on for 100 days. Yeah. He said he wanted to be a dictator for a day, but he really wants to be a dictator in the United States of America.
And what's funny is like Uncle David, like, este come mierda, is there like, yeah, shaking his head. No, David, he said that as a joke. You should know about jokes because that's your brand of journalism. So you should understand about what humor is. Right? But again, why not feign the fake outrage like Bonnie's so good at? Why don't you just, like, you know, nod your head like a seal at the circus, you know, being waiting for someone to dangle a fish at you. Which, let's be honest, I mean, I'm sure you would welcome that too.
And dismantle our Constitution and the rights and privileges and opportunities that exist in this Constitution. That doesn't actually surprise me.
Let's fast forward a little bit more. So let's go to Dr. Christine Greer out of Fordham, which is just ridiculous because, let's be honest, folks, the hyper hysteria here with this one is rich. Let's go to the clip.
She represents the 12th Congressional District here in Jersey. Congresswoman, always you. So the ironic juxtaposition of the inauguration and the MLK holiday landing on the same day, for starters, you must have thought about that this week.
Oh, absolutely. And I think MLK would have wanted me to go to the Knicks game, which is what I did, because I think we're in for a very long 4 years, and we have to do two things simultaneously. One, we have to hold the new president accountable.
Oh, so this is a woman who doesn't know the difference between basketball and basket weaving, but we're going to believe she went to a Knicks game? Okay, sure. Okay, got it.
For some of the most draconian policies we've seen in our lifetime, but two, we can't get caught up with his emotional whims the way we did the first time around. And so it's incredibly exhausting. You know, when you said the ship has sailed, you know, some people feel as though we're on the Titanic, and will we survive? And so I think if it's going to be a 4 years, we have to essentially sharpen the sword. We can't be at war with this man at all times. We do have to pay attention, but we also can't let him control every being of our life the way many of us allowed it to happen the first 4 years he was in office.
That's an interesting point. What grabbed you from the address? Did you watch it?
I'd read the transcript. You know, I think
that's a lie. Folks, we all know people like David Cruz and Christina Greer. They live for this stuff. They live to sit there and agonize and watch. It's almost like, it's like emotional cutting, right? It's almost like, I don't know, it's like pain porn for people like this. Like, they know it's painful, but they're watching anyway. Like, that's the type of sycophants we're dealing with here, folks. Not just in academia, but in media. But let's continue.
Honestly, this time around, I have to monitor the intake of vitriol and cruelty, just so I can keep a clear mind. Much of what Donald Trump says, you know, he denied on the campaign trail, but these were promises from Project 2025 that he is trying to make come to fruition. Some of these promises are just pomp and circumstance, and they're performative for his base, which we have to remember was not a mandate. Yes, he did win the popular vote. Yes, he did win the Electoral College. He did not win by a landslide, and we have to remember that 40% of the voting eligible.
But, sweetheart, when you sweep all the swing states and you win an enormous amount of counties nationwide and you flip multiple counties nationwide, no, that's a mandate. That's not just falling into the office, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? When you win the Electoral College decisively and you win the popular vote decisively and you sweep all the swing states and you, again, help the House retain the majority and you help Republicans win the Senate. Folks, this was an electoral ass whooping of the highest order against Democrats in Washington. So don't get it twisted, sweetie. Speak on facts. I know it's hard for you, but let's kind of keep it real also. And again, are we surprised that, David Cruz would have a propagandist like Christina Greer on his show? Of course not. It takes one propagandist to know one.
Population in the United States chose not to participate. So by no means does he have a mandate from the vast majority of Americans for any of the stuff that he's doing. So we can still be vigilant when he's talking about everything from DEI to immigration to a woman's right to choose to LGBTQ plus issues to the environment to our relationship with those abroad. The list goes on and on.
Yeah. This is a president who, during the campaign, expressed admiration for a 1930s Germany-style government, and lo and behold, here it is when you have...
Folks, I'm so tired of this nonsense, okay? Again, there's no admiration for 1930s Nazi Germany. There just isn't. And again, for Uncle Dave... Now, again, I was at Madison Square Garden in October for that rally. There was no Nazi symbolism there. There was no, even comparison to what was going on. But again, and I understand, it was hard for Uncle Dave to leave his house and travel across the river to Madison Square Garden, which I know was kind of interesting because, the food court was wide open in Madison Square Garden. So I would think they would have wanted to go. But again, folks, this propaganda, and let me just move on a little bit more here to another.
When you look at some of the polling data of, how we treat immigrants, how we treat our LGBTQ plus neighbors and relatives, how we treat women and their autonomy, when we think about the issue of abortion, not just reproductive justice, all of these questions Democrats are winning on. The problem is, they're on the right side of history.
No, they're not. When it comes to reproductive rights here in New Jersey, Christine, it's been codified into state law, for example. I believe it's also been codified into state law in New York, where you reside. So this weaponization of reproductive rights every election cycle, people are tired of it. They just are. Okay? The idea about LGBT, what rights are we infringing upon? What, that we don't want to encourage or embolden grown men who are mentally ill, who want to keep playing make-believe and pretend that they're women? No, I'm sorry. No one's buying this anymore. Okay? No amount of dress up, no amount of theatrics or whatever you want to take. If you're a man born with a penis, you're a man. No amount of hormones or whatever surgeries you want to take. Again, your chromosomes are your chromosomes. Okay? If you're a woman with a uterus and ovaries, a vaginal canal, you're a woman. No amount of surgeries or no amount of make-believe is going to make you a man. So no one's infringing upon rights. What we're trying to do is just reestablish the fact that there's only two genders. Folks, everything else is mental illness. It's as simple as that. But let's continue with this nonsense.
Right side of public opinion, it's can they articulate to voters how that affects them economically as well, because we know that Donald Trump, A, has lied on the stump several times, and B, people have twisted themselves in knots to say it's the economy, when realistically it was because they could not pull a lever for Kamala Harris.
The expression, don't tell me what you say, show me what you do. Meanwhile, Democrats voting for the Laken Riley bill, for instance, eliminating due process for individuals here without legal status. What do you say to Democrats, or what should Democratic voters say to their leaders? This is Democrats, 40 of whom or more voted for this in the House, and another 20 or some others in the Senate. In the House, a guy who's running for governor of this state voted yes on that.
This is what I talk to my students about all the time. There's several colors of blue within the Democratic Party. And what's frustrating is that we have...
No, David, the reason that Republicans and Democrats voted for the Laken Riley Act is because what we saw for the last 4 years under Joe Biden was a wide open border and criminal illegals committing heinous acts all across this country. Whether it was Kate Stanley out in San Francisco that we've learned about, whether it was Laken Riley in Georgia, whether it's a woman across the river in New York City taking the subway from Brooklyn into Manhattan, getting burned alive by an illegal criminal illegal, or criminal illegals committing crimes in broad daylight. Now, I get it that for Uncle Dave, like, you don't really leave your house other than go to the Gateway Center and go food shopping. But for those of us that are out there that go to New York regularly, like myself, we're seeing criminality everywhere. So the idea that we want to vilify people, even Democrats who voted for the Laken Riley Act, yeah, let's make sure we get rid of criminal illegals. Let's make sure we have some sort of semblance of public safety and public order. But again, Uncle Dave doesn't believe in that. Uncle Dave would rather virtue signal and coddle illegals than actually talk about the problem. And that's what he's best known for. And of course, talking to a virtue signal like Christine Greer only emboldens the nonsense narratives on NJ Spotlight News.
So many Democrats who are so interested in running to the right to try and be Republican light, they're abandoning what Democrats actually say and articulate what they want. You know, real Democrats want Democrats to behave as Democrats, to uphold civil rights and civil liberties. That's how we'll attract young people. That's how we'll get people to the polls.
How are we not upholding civil rights and civil liberties? Are we not trying to protect Americans, Christine and David? But again, I don't want to sort of go too much on this, folks, but you get the picture, right? You get the picture how this has really become a staple for, again, today's journalism. Where Uncle Dave would rather coddle illegals, would rather virtue signal about woke bullshit, which, again, NJ Spotlight News loves to highlight. Okay? But if you're looking for good news sources, folks, it's not NJ Spotlight News. Now, mind you, I love watching the nightly recaps. Again, you got some really nice looking MILFs on NJ Spotlight News, whether it's Raven Santana, whether it's Brianna Benozzi, that's right, Joanna Gaggis. I mean, these are some hot looking women to look at. I mean, I'm not complaining when I tune in NJ Spotlight News at night. But folks, when it comes to responsible journalism, we're not getting it from David Cruz. We're just not. But I get it. He's been in the business. He's cut his teeth. He it's a tough job succeeding Michael Aaron, the GOAT of journalism in New Jersey. But folks, when it comes to real journalism and just real discussions and things that make sense, you're not going to get that from David Cruz. I mean, do we need more examples? I provide them all the time. It's not like I'm not making this up. It's not like I'm concocting this out of the thin air. Folks, the reason Uncle Dave gets cooked so much on this show because he brings it on himself. Okay? Now, I don't want to say the word cook too much. I mean, it might make him hungry if he's watching, because we all know he does. Okay? But if there's a reason to cook Uncle Dave, folks, look no further than the constant virtue signaling and the woke bullshit that he stands for. That's not journalism, folks. That's propaganda. Let's know the difference. Speak about knowing the difference. And of course, coddling illegals. Folks, let's talk about Amy Torres, the insufferable cat lady who is the executive director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Now, of course, we all know that Amy Torres was menstruating all this past week, obviously, with ICE raids happening all across this country, and of course, more specifically here in New Jersey. I got to give it to Amy. I mean, I was impressed. Like, you were working, and by the way, Jesus Christ, I mean, imagine, and I'll show you the tweet in a minute, but imagine coming home to this. Imagine coming home to Amy Torres and dealing with her insufferable ass. Folks, if it doesn't want to make you like take one of these and just down it, like to go to sleep, I don't know what will. Okay. I can't even imagine being married to that. Could you imagine? Like that's scary. But what's even scarier, never mind who dresses this woman. Again, maybe Stevie Wonder, I don't know. Okay. But what's even scarier is the notion that Amy Torres would like you to believe that these ICE raids are inhumane, that they're unnecessary. No, Amy. And I get it, you know, whenever you leave your downtown Jersey City apartment and either go to the door to pick up something from Uber Eats or Whole Foods or Fresh Direct, or you're going to Starbucks for your 8th cup of coffee during the day, right? Or when you're standing on stage, and again, poor Rob Menendez having to stand next to this insufferable cat lady. But what the president and ICE are doing, Amy, is legal. Now, she won't tell you that. But what Amy would want you to believe is somehow, and again, I'll sort of read you the tweet there. I was on the ground at the ICE raid in Newark. Now, again, you can look at the timestamp. It's 6:59 a.m. I was really impressed because esta vaga trabajando a las 7 de la mañana. That's a miracle to even see Amy Torres leave her house, much less be up that early working. I mean, that's a... Amy, felicidades. Look at you working. Man, it's a new year. All right, cool. We'll see how long that lasts. You know, but of course, we are scrambling to connect legal services for folks. Faces and names have leaked online, and quote, I am begging you, do not share the name of the businesses nor the pictures taken. People still work there. I said they'll be back. Oh my God, the hysteria. Oh my God. Oh my God. Whatever will we do about the federal government actually doing its job and enforcing federal immigration law and removing criminal illegals? By the way, folks, if you follow the ICE page on Twitter, you'll see a daily report of who they captured. And there is a plethora of criminal illegals with warrants for homicides, for assaults. We're seeing gangs being arrested out in Colorado, criminal illegals that are doing damage to our communities. But let's be fair about what Amy Torres is. Amy Torres would rather coddle criminality than see the law being followed. That's exactly what it is. She's lying to you otherwise. And not just her, but Nettie Morrissey from Make the Road, New Jersey, and all these insufferable organizations in New Jersey that would rather virtue signal and be hyperbolic about immigration. Listen, here in Hudson County, we saw raids being done in West New York, Union City, nearby Essex County in Newark. We saw it in Plainfield, down South Jersey, Neptune, down the shore. Folks, again, we elected Donald Trump with a mandate. We need to see federal immigration law being followed. Okay? We didn't see that with the previous administration. You know what's really interesting about people like Amy Torres and Nettie Morrissey and other virtue signals like David Cruz, Christine Greer, and all these other left-wing propagandists? And this isn't just speculation. During the 8 years of Barack Obama, the deporter-in-chief deported more illegals than the 16 years of Presidents Bush and Clinton before him. Did the economy collapse? Did this country implode with the record number of deportations under Barack Obama? Of course not. But not a word from the liberal media, not a word from establishment media, whether it be nationally or here in New Jersey. David Cruz would probably still get an erection about Barack Obama and thinking about his presidency, but he's not thinking rationally or logically because the facts aren't on his side. You can even look at the stats. In the last 2 years, Joe Biden deported more people than the entire first term of Donald Trump from 2017 to 2021. Now, maybe it was done more discreetly. Is that what Amy and Nettie and Dave and all these other idiots want? Sure, they can go about it discreetly. But folks, we've had a wide open border. Okay? We've had a wide open border, and it takes dramatic examples to fix the problem. Because again, these are serious times, and these are serious problems, and we need serious people to solve them. But when I think about serious people, I don't think about Amy Torres. I think about Nettie Morrissey. I don't think about organizations like the New Jersey Alliance of Immigrant Justice or Make the Road New Jersey or the Latino Action Network or the New Jersey Citizens Project or the ACLU or propagandists like David Cruz, Charles Stile, and others, Alan Steinberg, Bob Hennelly, take your pick, Jay Lassiter, take your pick, folks. They're happy to coddle illegals. Okay? They'd rather fixate on pronouns and pregnant people than public safety. That's the truth. Okay? Don't take my word for it. Read their columns and watch their content. Okay? But of course, when we also talk about coddling illegals and all this makeshift activism, folks, let's talk about Patricia Campos Medina, right? A failed U.S. Senate candidate here last year in New Jersey, who somehow tries to fool you into believing that, yes, she's a regular person like you and me. That when she ran for U.S. Senate, that she ran as a progressive that isn't about vanity or propping herself up, but it's about propping up others. Does this look like a serious candidate to you? I mean, folks, never mind Amy Torres. I mean, that's insufferable. Imagine having to come home to Patricia Campos Medina. Imagine having to come home to an insufferable, obnoxious feminist. That's what she is. Who would blatantly lie to you and tell you that she really cares about public safety when she doesn't. She's happy to coddle illegals. She's happy to get into the ears of legislators in Trenton while being the driving force among other organizations and activists about giving driver's licenses to illegals, about making sure that we take taxpayer dollars out of the state budget and create a legal fund to provide legal representation for illegals fighting deportation. These are the people who are activists who supposedly we're supposed to take seriously. Right? Grifters like her who somehow felt shut out of the process last year, but what do you know? We'll go and announce her endorsement of Representative Mikey Sherrill, who, in the eyes of many, seems to be an establishment candidate right now running for the Democrat Party for governor. Patricia, if you're really about fighting against the establishment, maybe sit this one out. And of course, it doesn't help when, folks, I can't even look at this picture without laughing. Okay? Imagine coming home to this. Imagine coming home to Patricia Bouillon and Patricia Campos Medina. Folks, there isn't enough of this in my house. I would have to drink 3 of these to even go in the house. Imagine coming home to this. Folks, I would drink myself to sleep. Folks, I wouldn't have a liver left if these are the people to come home to. But these are the grifters, these are the propagandists, and these are the virtue signalers that are adamant and morally outraged about ICE raids and about stand up for illegals. No, folks, these are people who have no problem telling you what to do with our tax dollars when we all know that they're perfectly content not helping illegals at all. They want to make sure it's at your expense, at the expense of taxpayers. But they're not serious about solving the problem. They'd rather virtue signal and grandstand, which they're really good at. Just like Patricia's husband, Bob, who at the tender age of 97 years old still somehow thinks he's an active voice in the community. No. And we all know it's 7:30. Yeah, Bob's sleeping at this time. Okay. But these are the activists in New Jersey that somehow think that they're serious about fighting for illegals. Sure. Folks, it's downright scary. Who supposedly we're supposed to rely on for activism. That's pretty shameful. Speaking of shameful, well, folks, yes, we are 5 days away from the end of the Star Ledger, the end of the printing of the Star Ledger, and of course, the end of Tom Moran. And on behalf of everybody here at Jersey First TV, on behalf of everybody who would be put to sleep reading his columns, and listen, I feel bad for people at the Star Ledger, people in the printing press, the marketing department, interns, okay? People who work in graphics. I feel sorry for all of them because they didn't deserve what happens. They didn't do anything to destroy the newspaper or the news site. But you know who did do something to destroy the news site? This clown, So on behalf of everybody in New Jersey, Tommy, I want to wish you a happy unemployment and good effing riddance to trash journalists like yourself. Yes, folks. Pains me to see Tom Moran. But Tom, I heard they're hiring at Wendy's, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and Bergen. And with your limited, I guess, work experience, I mean, you're not really good for anything other than being a propagandist. I heard they're hiring. Again, nothing against Walmart, great people there, but I think they're hiring for Walmart greeters. So you might want to take a chance. Go to walmart.com/careers. You can fill out an application. I'm sure you'll be okay there. And if you need a ride, I don't mind helping the elderly. So again, at the tender age of 93, I don't think they'll discriminate against you. I think that you're still eligible to work, Tommy. But once again, good riddance to Tom Moran in 5 days. The Star Ledger and NJ.com go out of business. Speaking about unemployment, let's move on to Ron Zettlinger, the editor of the Jersey Journal. It's interesting, the Jersey Journal's been around for over 150 years. Of course, it would die at the hands of garbage journalists like Ron Zettlinger, Joshua Rosario. Okay. Who, by the way, I mean, I get you're on paternity leave. How many kids did your wife have? Like 7? Like, that was like the longest paternity leave I've ever seen in modern history. Now, again, like, what took you so long to be on paternity leave? I mean, did you have like that many kids? And I get it that, I mean, there's no lack of breastfeeding between, your wife and then, I mean, we all know the man tits you have, Joshua. I mean, so were all the kids fed appropriately? Like, were they all breastfed accordingly, right? With everything in the house, in the Rosario household? I don't know. But if you want to know why you're out of a job, you can easily look at this fool right here. And in 5 days also, Ron Zettlinger will also be out of a job. And I couldn't hope for a better candidate for unemployment than Ron Zettlinger. A guy who for 10 years never said a word about a white woman destroying New Jersey University as its president. But the minute that a qualified, intelligent Cuban is named the interim president, somehow, you have a problem with that. Somehow you're the journalist who stands up for, I don't know, underrepresented populations. You seem to have a problem with brown people when you don't support great humans like Andres Acebo. Who, by the way, folks, programming alert, he'll be my guest next Monday here on Real Talk at 6:05. But on behalf of everybody at Jersey First TV, on behalf of everybody in Hudson County, what a better song to think about when it comes to Ron Zettlinger. And it kind of got me motivated from watching Deadpool and Wolverine this past summer.
But it ain't no lie, baby, bye, bye, bye. I really wanna make it tough. I just wanna tell you that I had enough. It might sound crazy, but it ain't no lie, baby, bye, bye, bye.
Yes, folks. Bye, bye, bye to Ron Zettlinger. That's right, folks. The outgoing editor of the Jersey Journal. You know what? Let's kind of got me energized. I might want to just, let's all wish Ron Zettlinger a happy unemployment.
But it ain't no lie, baby, bye, bye, bye. I really wanna make it tough. I just wanna tell you that I had enough. It might sound crazy, but it ain't no lie, baby, bye, bye, bye.
Yes, folks. Ron Zettlinger. Good riddance to Uncle Ronnie there at the Jersey Journal. Good riddance. Que te vaya pa la mierda. No one deserves unemployment better than Ron Zettlinger. Bye, Ronnie. Again, enjoy retirement. We're not going to miss you. And folks, all of that, those are my final thoughts. Folks, once again, I want to thank Alexandra Bougher, the distinguished chair of Moms for Liberty in Bergen County, and of course, all the great work that she does. Appreciate her time on the show earlier today. Folks, if you missed any part of tonight's broadcast, and by the way, look at the numbers there. Nice traffic tonight, so appreciate you guys tuning in here. Obviously, the comments section here, a lot of people tuning in. Thank you very much. Oh, yes. Well, yeah, I bring up names because we all know how salty people can be. Okay? So in any event, yes, folks, keep the comments coming. Yes, this is a great time to voice opinions. And again, appreciate you tuning into the show, even for the haters out there. Once again, folks, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. And of course, make sure you download Jersey First on Spotify or SoundCloud. And certainly take it with you wherever and whenever you're traveling here in 2025. Folks, I can't say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media here in New Jersey. Folks, check out Jersey First TV whenever you can. And always remember, it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid. It's always real talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am, folks, the generational talent in Garden State Media. And yes, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption here because my level of honesty, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Thanks so much for everyone tuning in here. All my friends, family, frenemies, the haters, everybody else, all the people who need a lot of ointment for the burns I give them every week. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in here. I'm Fernando Uribe. Enjoy the Royal Rumble this Saturday night as the WWE emanates from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis as the road to WrestleMania begins this Saturday night in the Royal Rumble. Folks, and again, enjoy yourselves this weekend. Please party responsibly. We appreciate you tuning in here every single week on the Jersey First Television Network. Thanks so much for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.